Snow was falling from the sky, slow and endless, covering the ground in white. The night was cold, the wind sharp, the world silent except for the sound of the storm. In that silence, on the edge of a broken battlefield, a small figure lay curled up in the snow. It was not a human child. It was something different, something fragile, something alien. Her skin was pale with a faint glow. Her eyes, once bright, were now heavy and closing, her small body shaking with every breath. She had walked for hours, searching for shelter, searching for food, searching for someone who would not push her away. But there was no one. Her people were gone, scattered or dead in the war. She was only a child, yet the war had already taken everything from her. The snow covered her tiny arms, her thin clothes too weak to fight the cold. She tried to keep her eyes open, but the darkness pulled her down. She pressed her small hands against her chest, shivering harder. The snowflakes fell on her face, melting into drops that froze on her cheeks like tears. She thought of her family, but her memory was blurry now, fading like the last spark of a dying flame. Around her, the land was destroyed. Broken machines of war lay half-buried in ice. Metal burned black, wires sticking out like bones, smoke still rising from some wrecks even in the storm. This place had once been alive with battle cries and fire, but now it was only white silence. The ground carried the scars of war, and in the middle of it all, the little alien orphan was about to fall asleep for the last time. Her body trembled, her breathing slow. She whispered something in her language, soft, weak, words that no one could hear. It was a prayer, maybe, or a goodbye. She closed her glowing eyes, her small chest rising and falling like a candle flickering in the wind. If no one came, the snow would cover her and she would be gone. Another life forgotten in the endless war. The silence grew heavy, almost cruel. The storm hissed, the wind pushed against her small frame. She was alone. At least that was what she thought. Then in the distance came a sound. A soft crunch, snow under boots, slow, steady steps. Not many, just one set. Closer, closer, louder against the storm. The girl stirred, too weak to lift her head, but her ears caught the sound. Her tiny body froze in fear. Was it a soldier? Was it death walking closer? The steps stopped. A tall shadow fell across her small body. She opened her eyes just a little, her vision blurry through the snowflakes. She saw a figure standing above her. A human. His armor was scratched and burned, his face hidden by a dark hood. He was a soldier, a fighter of the enemy, the one her people had feared. In his hand he carried a weapon heavy and cold. For a moment time stopped. The man looked down at her. His eyes narrowed as if he was deciding. He could end her life with one move. He had been trained to kill her kind, to see them as enemies, not as children. But he did not raise his weapon. He just stood there breathing in the cold air, watching the fragile creature curled up in the snow. The girl tried to move, but her body failed. She expected pain, the end. But instead she felt something heavy, something warm. The man knelt down, his armor pressing into the snow, and he removed his thick coat. Without a word, he draped it over her small frame. The warmth sank into her frozen skin. She blinked, confused. Why was he helping her? Why was the enemy protecting her? The soldier said nothing, only watching as her small body stopped shaking. His face was hard, unreadable, but his hands were careful, almost gentle. He adjusted the coat so it covered her fully, then placed his gloved hand on her shoulder, just for a moment. Just enough to say without words, "You are safe, little one." The girl's eyes closed again, but this time not from weakness, not from despair. For the first time in days, she felt safe. She felt warmth, she felt life still waiting for her. She whispered something again in her language, softer now, almost like a thank you. The storm raged around them. The battlefield silent and broken, but here, in the middle of snow and destruction, something different had happened, something no one expected. A human soldier had found an alien orphan, and instead of leaving her to die, he had chosen to protect her. The silence of the night was no longer empty. It carried the weight of a decision that could change everything. And as the snow kept falling, the soldier lifted the little alien into his arms. She was light, almost weightless, but the choice he had made was heavy, heavier than any weapon he had carried before. He looked into the storm, his steps slow but steady, carrying her away from death. The snow and the silence had almost claimed another life. But now, a story was beginning. A story that would be remembered far beyond this frozen night. The soldier walked through the storm, his heavy boots sinking deep into the snow. In his arms, the alien child rested under his coat. Her glowing eyes half closed, her tiny breath soft against his chest. She was light. Lighter than any weapon he had ever carried, but heavier in meaning than all the orders he had ever followed. Every step he took, his mind fought against itself. His orders were clear: no survivors, no mercy, no exceptions. The war had left no room for kindness. The alien race had been declared enemies, monsters, threats to human survival. But the small figure in his arms was not a monster. She was just a child. The soldier's name was not spoken in that moment. He was just a man, a human caught between duty and heart. His face was worn from years of war, his eyes sharp from too many battles, his hands scarred from endless fights. Yet now those same hands held something fragile, something that made him question everything he had been told. He looked down at her again. The little alien was drifting in and out of sleep, her breath visible in the freezing air. She clutched his coat tighter as if afraid he might take it back. The sight pulled at something inside him, something he thought the war had buried long ago. A voice echoed in his memory, his commander's words. No pity, no hesitation. Enemies are not children, they are threats. If you hesitate, you die. If you spare them, you betray your people. The soldier clenched his jaw. He had followed those words for years. He had done things that haunted him in silence. He had convinced himself it was necessary, that war demanded hard choices. But standing here holding a child who had no weapon, no power, only fear and cold, he could no longer believe those words. The storm grew stronger. He needed shelter. He scanned the frozen ruins and spotted a bunker half buried in snow, its door cracked open, the inside dark. He pushed forward, forcing his way inside. The bunker smelled of rust and dust, abandoned long ago. Broken crates lay in corners, metal walls stained by fire. But it was safe from the storm, and for now that was enough. He set the child down carefully on a blanket he found, brushing snow from her hair. She stirred, her glowing eyes opening wide, fear returning to her face. She pressed herself against the wall, trembling. She did not understand him. She only saw a human soldier, an enemy. The man raised his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. He took off his helmet, placing it on the ground. His face was tired, his eyes rough but not cruel. He spoke softly, his voice low and calm. "You're safe here," he said, though he knew she could not understand his words. The child tilted her head, her small hands gripping the coat tightly. Her eyes were full of confusion. She did not trust him, not yet. The soldier sighed and reached into his pack. He pulled out a ration bar, broke it in half, and placed it on the ground between them. Then he sat back, giving her space. For a long moment, nothing happened. The bunker was silent except for the storm howling outside. Then slowly the girl crawled forward. Her hands shook as she picked up the food. She sniffed it, hesitated, then took a tiny bite. Her glowing eyes softened just a little. The soldier watched in silence. Something heavy lifted from his chest as he saw her eat. She was still afraid, but she was alive. And he had chosen to keep her that way. But deep inside he knew the danger. If his unit found out, they would not forgive him. To them, he would no longer be a soldier, he would be a traitor. Protecting this child could cost him his life. He leaned back against the cold wall, staring at the ceiling. His mind was full of questions. Why had he saved her? Was it pity? Was it rebellion against orders? Or was it something else? Something he had forgotten during the war. He remembered his own daughter, years ago before the war consumed everything. Her laugh, her small hands tugging at his sleeve. Her eyes bright with life. She had been lost in a bombing raid. One of many attacks that had shattered his world. Since then, he had buried his heart under armor, under orders, under silence. But now, looking at this alien child, he felt that old wound open again. She reminded him of what he had lost, of what war had stolen. And though she was not his daughter, though she was not even human, she awakened a part of him he thought was gone. The part that still cared. He whispered to himself, his voice almost broken. I can't let her die. Not like this. The child's ears twitched, catching the sound of his voice. She did not understand the words, but she heard the tone. Gentle, not like the voices of soldiers she had feared. Her grip on the coat loosened. For the first time, she did not look at him with only fear. The soldier closed his eyes, his decision made. He would protect her no matter the cost. Orders be damned, or be damned. This was not about humans or aliens. This was about a child who deserved to live. The storm roared outside, but inside the bunker, a fragile spark of trust began to form. The soldier did not know what tomorrow would bring, but tonight, he knew one thing with certainty. He had made his choice, and that choice would change everything. The storm outside screamed against the broken metal walls. But inside the bunker there was only the sound of a small fire. The soldier had found old scraps of wood and wiring, and with careful effort he had sparked a flame. Its light flickered across the room, chasing away the shadows, giving warmth to a place long abandoned. The alien child sat near the fire, wrapped in the soldier's heavy coat. Her glowing eyes reflected the flame, wide and cautious. She still did not trust him, not fully. She watched his every move, ready to retreat if he came too close. Yet she did not run. She was too weak, and deep inside some part of her knew. Without him she would not survive the night. The soldier sat a few feet away, leaning against the wall. His helmet rested on the ground beside him, his weapon lying across his knees. He kept the fire small, knowing smoke could give away their location. His face was calm, but his thoughts were loud, heavy. He had broken the rules. He had carried an enemy into his arms, hidden her, kept her alive. If his squad discovered this, there would be no trial, no second chance. They would execute him on sight. Yet as he looked at the little alien sitting by the fire, nibbling the last piece of ration he had given her, he felt no regret. The child sneezed softly, pulling the coat tighter around her. The soldier shifted closer and set down another broken plank near the fire. The warmth grew stronger. She stared at him, nervous, but when he met her eyes, she quickly looked away. He tried speaking again, his voice steady, calm, like he was speaking to his own daughter long ago. "You'll be all right," he said softly. "You're safe now." Of course, she did not understand. But something in his tone made her shoulders relax. Words were not needed. Kindness was its own language. She reached out her small hand toward the fire, and the soldier noticed how thin her fingers were, how fragile her arms looked under the coat. She was starving. Without food, she would not last long. He frowned, thinking. His own supplies were limited, barely enough for one soldier. But now he had to share. He opened his pack and took out a canteen. He placed it on the ground and pushed it slowly toward her. She looked at it, then at him. Her glowing eyes narrowed with suspicion. He nodded once, showing it was safe. Finally, she picked it up with both hands and drank. Her lips trembled, but her eyes softened again. For the first time, she whispered something, a small sound in her own language. He did not know the meaning, but he understood the feeling. Gratitude. The fire cracked softly. The storm outside faded into background noise. Inside the bunker, a fragile peace held them together. The soldier leaned his head back against the wall, staring at the ceiling. His memories pressed down on him again. His daughter's face. Her laughter. The way she had once tugged at his sleeve, asking for a story before bed. He swallowed hard, blinking away the sting in his eyes. He could not bring her back. But maybe saving this child was a way to keep her memory alive. He turned his gaze to the girl. She was staring at him again, not with fear, but with curiosity. The firelight danced across her glowing eyes, making her look otherworldly, fragile yet full of quiet strength. "Who are you, little one?" he whispered. She tilted her head, almost like she wanted to answer, but the barrier of language stood between them. Still, in that silence, something passed between them. A spark of understanding, fragile but real. Suddenly, a sound echoed outside. A distant crunch of boots in the snow. The soldier's eyes snapped open, his body tense. He reached for his weapon, his instincts sharp again. Someone was out there. The child froze, her glowing eyes wide with fear. She pressed herself deeper into the coat, trembling. The soldier raised a hand, signaling for her to stay quiet. He moved slowly to the door, every step careful, listening. The sound faded after a while. Maybe just the wind carrying noise, maybe patrols moving nearby. He waited in silence, his finger tight on the trigger. After long minutes, the noise was gone. He lowered his weapon but did not relax. Danger was close. Too close. He returned to the fire and looked at the child. She was staring at him with terrified eyes, her hand shaking. He knelt beside her and placed his gloved hand gently on her shoulder. "It's all right," he whispered. "I won't let anyone hurt you." She did not understand the words, but she understood the touch. Slowly, her trembling eased. She leaned just slightly against him, closing her glowing eyes. The soldier's chest tightened. This was no longer about orders or duty. This was about a promise, a silent vow. He looked into the fire, his voice low, almost to himself. I'll protect you. Even if the world calls me a traitor, I'll protect you. The fire burned steady, casting shadows on the bunker walls. Outside, the storm still raged, but inside, a fragile refuge had formed. The man and the alien child sat together in the silence, two enemies bound by something greater than war. Trust was not complete, fear was not gone, but hope had entered the room, carried on the warmth of the fire, and for the first time in years, the soldier felt something he thought he had lost forever: humanity. The fire burned low inside the bunker, sending soft orange light across the walls. The storm outside had quieted, but the night was still cold and dangerous. The soldier sat near the entrance, his weapon resting on his knees, his eyes watching the shadows. Behind him, wrapped in his coat, the alien child slept quietly. Her breaths were slow, steady now, no longer weak like before. The warmth had returned to her skin, the glow in her eyes brighter when she finally opened them. She stirred, looking around, confused but calm. When her gaze landed on the soldier, she froze for a moment, fear rising again. But he did not move toward her, did not raise his weapon. He only gave her a small nod as if to say, "You are safe." For hours he kept his guard, listening for footsteps outside, for voices, for the danger that was never far. He had broken his orders. He had hidden an enemy. If his squad discovered this, he would be branded a traitor. And yet, as he looked at the small child, he could not bring himself to regret it. The soldier's mind drifted to the past. He saw his home years ago before the war consumed everything. He saw his wife, his little girl, their laughter filling the house. That memory was brighter than any fire, but it burned his chest with pain. He remembered the day the bombs fell, how the light in his daughter's eyes had been stolen forever. He had buried his heart that day, covering it with steel, with orders, with silence. But now, holding this alien child's fragile life in his hands, he felt the cracks in that steel. He felt the weight of choice pressing down on him. He whispered into the night, his voice low. "She reminds me of you." The child tilted her head as if she sensed the heaviness in his tone. She could not understand the words, but she heard the sadness. Her glowing eyes softened, watching him carefully. The soldier leaned closer, speaking again, though mostly to himself. "They call you an enemy. They say you're dangerous, but you're just a child. You're not the war." She blinked slowly, as if trying to understand. Then she reached out a small hand, placing it weakly on his coat. The gesture was simple, but it struck him deeply. It was trust, fragile and new. He sat in silence, staring at her hand, then at her eyes. He felt his chest tighten, and for the first time in years, his voice trembled. "I lost my daughter. Maybe saving you is all I can do now." The fire crackled. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, something unspoken grew stronger, but danger was close. The soldier knew it. His squad was patrolling nearby. If they searched the ruins and found the bunker, everything would end. He checked his pack, counting the little food he had left. Barely enough for one soldier, let alone two, but he pushed the thought aside. The girl needed it more. He broke another ration in half and placed it near her. She ate slowly, her eyes never leaving his face. Then a sharp sound cut through the night. Voices. Human voices. The soldier's body tensed. He stood quickly, moving to the entrance. Outside, shadows shifted. His unit was close. He turned back to the child. Her glowing eyes widened with fear, her body shaking again. She pressed against the wall, clutching the coat. The soldier knelt, his voice sharp but soft. "Stay quiet. No matter what happens, stay quiet." She did not understand the words, but she understood his eyes. She nodded weakly, curling smaller into the coat. The soldier stepped outside, closing the bunker door partway. The snow crunched under his boots as he approached the patrol. His squad leader stood there, tall and stern, his rifle slung across his shoulder. "You're late," the leader barked. "Where have you been?" The soldier kept his face calm. "Scouting the ruins." The storm covered tracks. "I saw nothing." The leader narrowed his eyes. "You're hiding something. You've been different lately." The soldier's chest tightened, but his face remained stone. "I follow orders." The leader stared at him for a long moment, then turned away. "Stay sharp. Aliens hide in these ruins. If you see one, you kill it." No hesitation. The soldier nodded, though his heart pounded in his chest. He returned to the bunker only when the patrol moved on. Inside, the child was waiting, eyes wide, her small hands clutching the coat like a shield. When he entered, she relaxed just a little. He knelt beside her, whispering, his voice steady but firm. "They'll never find you. I won't let them." Her glowing eyes searched his face, and for the first time she leaned against him without fear. The warmth of her trust spread through him like fire. The soldier knew what this meant. There was no turning back. He had chosen his path. He had chosen her. And with that choice, he had set himself against the very world he once served. The days passed slowly inside the broken bunker. Snowstorms came and went, covering the battlefield in silence, but inside, the soldier and the alien child built a fragile routine. He gave her food from his pack, small pieces at a time. He kept the fire alive when he could find scraps to burn, and slowly she began to trust him. She no longer flinched every time he moved. She no longer pressed herself against the wall in fear. Instead, she sat closer to the fire, closer to him. Sometimes she even watched his face with quiet curiosity, her glowing eyes reflecting the flames. But trust was dangerous. It was a secret too heavy to hide forever. The soldier knew his squad was still close. Patrols passed through the ruins every day. They were hunting for survivors, hunting for enemies. And if they discovered the child, everything he had done would be undone in a moment. He told himself to be careful, to take no risks. But danger does not ask permission. It arrives when least expected. That morning, the soldier had gone outside to search the wreckage for supplies. He found a ruined crate of metal, useless for food but good for firewood. As he dragged it back toward the bunker, he felt eyes on him. He turned, hand on his weapon, but saw nothing, only snow and shadows. Still, the feeling stayed with him. Inside, the child waited near the fire. When he entered, she looked up, her glowing eyes soft with relief. She was holding something in her hands, an old piece of cloth she had found in the bunker. She was tracing small shapes on it with her finger, almost like drawing. The soldier froze for a moment, watching her. She looked so much like a child from his own world, lost in play, innocent despite the war outside. His chest tightened, but outside, danger was already moving closer. Later that night, while the storm howled again, the soldiers' squad made camp not far from the bunker. Their voices carried through the snow. One of them muttered, "Strange how he disappears all the time. Always wandering off." Another answered, "Yeah, and where's his coat? A soldier doesn't throw away gear like that." The soldier inside the bunker did not hear their words, but suspicion had already taken root among his comrades. The next morning, the child made a mistake. She had grown curious about the world outside. While the soldier stepped out to check the perimeter, she wandered closer to the door, her small glowing hand pressed against the cold metal wall, leaving behind a faint print of light. She didn't notice it. She was too busy peeking at the snow, at the ruined machines, her eyes wide with wonder. When the soldier returned, he spotted the glowing handprint immediately. His stomach sank. He rushed to her, pulling her gently back inside, whispering harshly, "No, you can't be seen." She looked up at him, confused, frightened by his sudden urgency. Tears welled in her eyes, and she clutched his coat tighter. He softened, kneeling, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry, I can't let them see you." But it was too late. That afternoon, while he searched for more wood, 2 soldiers from his squad approached the bunker. They had seen the faint glow on the wall earlier and had followed it. The soldier froze when he spotted them. His heart pounded. He stepped in their path quickly, blocking the entrance. "What are you doing here?" one of them asked, eyes narrowing. "Checking the area," the soldier replied calmly. The second one frowned. "We saw light. Strange light. Thought maybe it was enemy tech." The soldier shook his head. "Just fire." I needed heat, but their eyes lingered on him, suspicious, doubtful. Behind the bunker door, the alien child sat silent, clutching the coat, her small heart racing. She could hear the voices outside, voices of the ones who would kill her without hesitation. The soldiers stepped closer, trying to look past him. He tightened his grip on his weapon. His voice was calm, but his body was ready for violence. "There's nothing here," he said firmly. "Go back to camp." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then one of them smirked. "Strange. You've been acting different. Hiding things, maybe. We'll be watching you." They turned and walked away, leaving only the storm behind. The soldier waited until their footsteps faded before he slipped back inside. The child's glowing eyes were wide with fear. She crawled to him, hiding in the folds of his coat as if he could shield her from the world. He knelt and held her gently, whispering, "It's all right. They didn't see you. But we must be more careful." He closed his eyes, the weight of his choice pressing harder than ever. His secret was slipping. His comrades were suspicious, and the child's glowing presence could not stay hidden forever. The bunker no longer felt safe. The walls seemed smaller, the silence heavier. But when he looked at her face, when he felt her tiny hands clutching him as if he was her only hope, he knew he would not abandon her, even if the truth was discovered. Even if it cost him his life, the discovery was coming. He could feel it. The war outside was not finished, and now the war inside his own squad was about to begin. The snow had not stopped for days, but the real storm was no longer outside. It was closing in from within the soldier's own squad. Whispers traveled through the camp. Men muttered by the fires at night. Their eyes lingered on him longer, sharper, filled with doubt. He felt it every time he walked past them. Suspicion was spreading like fire in dry grass. The soldier knew he had little time left. The alien child could not remain hidden forever. Her glowing eyes, her fragile voice, her very presence would betray him sooner or later. Yet still he could not abandon her. Every night when she curled up in his coat and whispered soft sounds in her strange tongue, he was reminded of his daughter, of the life he had lost, of the part of himself he thought had died long ago. He had already made his choice, but the world around him was about to force that choice into the open. It happened on a night when the snowstorm was at its worst. The wind screamed. The sky burned white with ice. Inside the bunker, the fire was almost dead, but the child was warm under the soldier's arms. She slept peacefully for the first time in days. Then the door burst open. Light from torches cut through the dark. Several soldiers stormed inside, rifles raised. At their head stood the squad commander, his face hard, his eyes cold. The soldier leapt to his feet, his weapon already in his hands, but he did not aim. Not yet. His chest was tight, his heart racing. The commander's voice thundered. "I knew it. You're hiding something." His men spread out, their weapons pointed at the shadows. One of them spotted the coat bundled in the corner. He yanked it away, and the glowing eyes of the alien child stared back at them. Gasps filled the room. Rifles snapped up instantly, every barrel aimed at the small figure. She froze, trembling, her breath caught in her throat. The commander sneered. "An alien. A filthy creature. You've betrayed us all." The soldier stepped between them, his body shielding the child. His voice was sharp, steady, but filled with fire. "She's just a child. She's an enemy." The commander barked. "Our orders are clear. No survivors, no mercy. Step aside or you'll die with her." The soldier's grip tightened on his weapon. He felt the weight of every eye on him. He knew what they saw, not a comrade but a traitor. But still he did not move. "She's not the war," he said firmly. "She's not a threat. She's innocent." The commander laughed bitterly. "Innocent? There is no innocent in war. Children grow into soldiers. Let her live and she'll one day kill your kind." The soldier shook his head. His voice trembled with anger but also with pain. "I lost my daughter to this war. I know what hatred does. I will not let it take her too." The commander's face hardened. "You've gone soft. You've forgotten your duty. If you stand in my way, you're no longer one of us." The room was silent except for the storm outside. Rifles remained raised, fingers tight on triggers. The alien child clutched the soldier's leg, her glowing eyes wide with terror. The soldier looked at his comrades. He had fought beside them for years, bled with them, saved their lives, and trusted them with his own. Now he stood alone against them. "I will protect her," he said, his voice steady as stone, "even if the world calls me a traitor, even if I have to face every gun in this room. I will not hand her over." For a moment, no one moved. The fire cracked weakly. The wind howled through the broken walls, and in that silence, the soldier's defiance hung heavier than any weapon. Then the commander raised his hand. "So be it, kill them both." The rifles clicked. The soldier lifted his weapon, stepping forward, his body a shield, his voice a roar. "No!" The standoff froze in time. Every man in the room felt the weight of the choice before them. Some looked at the child's glowing eyes, saw her small trembling frame, and hesitated. Others glanced at the soldier, remembering the times he had saved their lives, the loyalty he had once shown. The commander snarled, "Do it! Fire!" But the squad did not move. Their fingers shook. Their eyes wavered. Slowly, one man lowered his rifle. Then another. Shame burned in their faces as they realized the truth. The soldier was right. The child was not the war. She was not their enemy. The commander's face twisted with rage. He pointed his own gun. "If you won't obey, then I'll—" The soldier raised his weapon first, his eyes locked on the commander. The room filled with silence sharper than any blade. "Enough," the soldier said coldly. "This ends now." The bunker shook with tension. The storm outside raged, but the greater storm was inside, between loyalty and conscience, between orders and humanity. The soldier stood tall, unflinching, his body shielding the alien child. He had made his stand, and nothing would ever be the same again. The bunker was silent, but it was the silence of a blade pressed against the skin, sharp, dangerous, ready to cut at any moment. The storm outside raged, shaking the walls, yet it was nothing compared to the storm inside. The soldier stood tall, his rifle raised, his body shielding the small alien child behind him. Across from him, the commander's gun was aimed directly at his chest. Around them, the rest of the squad froze, their weapons half lowered, caught between orders and conscience. The alien child clutched the soldier's coat tightly, her glowing eyes wide with fear. She understood nothing of their words, but she understood the moment. Her life balanced on the trigger of a gun. The commander's voice broke the silence, filled with fury. "You would betray your people for her? An alien child? You shame us all." The soldier's eyes burned with defiance. His voice was steady, carrying not just anger but truth. "She is not the war. She is not my enemy. She's just a child. And if protecting her makes me a traitor, then I'll wear that name proudly." The squad shifted uncomfortably. Memories flashed in their minds. Nights the soldier had saved them. Moments when his courage had carried them through impossible fights. Could this same man truly be wrong now? Could it really be treason to protect someone so helpless? The commander sneered, spitting the words like poison. "Compassion is weakness. Mercy is death. If you let her live, she'll grow, and one day she'll kill you or your children. Don't you see?" The soldier's heart ached at the mention of children. His voice grew softer but stronger in meaning. "I lost my daughter to this war. I will not let another child, any child, be buried by our hatred." The weight of his words fell heavy on the room. The storm outside seemed to pause, as if even nature was listening. One soldier lowered his rifle completely. His face was pale, ashamed. "He's right. She's not a threat. Look at her. She's terrified." Another followed, his weapon falling to his side. Then another. One by one, rifles lowered, until only the commander stood firm, his face twisted with rage. "You cowards," he roared. "Have you forgotten our orders?"
Have you forgotten the blood they spilled?
The squad stayed silent. None moved to raise their rifles again. Their eyes were no longer on the child nor on the soldier. They were on the commander, and for the first time doubt filled their gaze. The commander's hands shook with anger. He turned his gun toward the child. "If you won't do it, then I will." But before he could pull the trigger, the soldier stepped forward, his body blocking the shot, his rifle locked on the commander. His voice cut like steel. "Then you'll have to go through me." The two men stared at each other, soldier against commander, loyalty against conscience. The firelight flickered between them, shadows twisting across their faces. Finally, the commander growled, lowering his weapon with disgust. "You're finished. You'll be court-martialed. Branded a traitor, no one will remember you as a hero." The soldier held his ground, his eyes unshaken. "And let history call me a traitor. At least I'll know I did what was right." He turned to his squad, his voice carrying the weight of his decision. "We've killed enough, burned enough, lost enough. This war has taken everything from us, but it cannot take our humanity, not unless we let it. We are humans, and humans protect those who cannot protect themselves." The squad stood in silence, the truth burning in their hearts. They had been soldiers for so long that they had forgotten that mercy was not weakness, that compassion was not treason, that humanity was not cruelty, it was hope. The alien child peeked from behind the soldier, her glowing eyes wet with tears. She looked at him, then at the others. For the first time, she did not see only fear in human faces. She saw something else, something she had not seen since her people were taken. She saw kindness. Word of the incident spread. Whispers traveled faster than bullets. A human soldier had protected an alien orphan. A squad had lowered their weapons instead of pulling the trigger. In a galaxy drowning in blood, the story burned like a spark in dry grass. Some called him a traitor. Others called him a fool, but many called him something else. A hero, the war did not end that night. Armies still marched, bombs still fell, hatred still poisoned the stars. But a seed had been planted, a story that could not be killed. Soldiers who had once followed orders without question now thought twice. They remembered the soldier's stand, the child's glowing eyes, the choice that defied death. Inside the bunker, the storm finally began to fade. The fire burned low, but the child was warm under the soldier's coat. She leaned against him, her breath steady, her trust complete. The soldier looked down at her, his face tired, but for the first time in years, a faint smile touched his lips. He had broken every rule. He had turned against his orders. But he had kept his humanity. And in a galaxy where kindness was rare, that made him more powerful than any weapon. Because in the end, it was not strength or fear, or hatred that made humans special. It was the simple, impossible act of choosing compassion.